pictures.
Pictures.
Of you
That's
two.
what we've got here on Radio Melee. We've got a lot of pictures of the Smash community, and we've got Cody Schwab, who's just won another major, in perhaps the most climactic and dramatic fashion in doing so. PP, I wonder what you had to think about. Oh, I'm not centered in my frame. Is that weird that I'm off? Should I? Okay, I'm over here now. All right, PP, you talk. How you been doing? I just woke up from a nap. That's why we're late.
Well, hey, you know what? We're here, and on the YouTube upload, we'll be on time anyway. And honestly, it's just it's a chaotic day. It's a day where everything is kind of in a scramble for those listening. This is the day in which Nintendo did upload a lot of documents, guidelines about what to do for an unlicensed tournament, which has a lot of people feeling a lot of strong ways about it. So, of course, we are going to be talking about that, but I also want to make sure we talk about our wonderful guest today, Cody Schwab, who's been doing, who went through a name change since last time he was on the program. Last time he was
What's Cody's name now?
It's Cody Schwab, but last time he was IBDW on the. I was looking at the last thing.
I thought Toast waking up.
Good morning.
Yeah.
Good morning, sunshine.
I was like, wow, you changed his name. Why are we still putting Cody then? I was like, I figured maybe you had like a surprise for me.
Oh, sorry.
It's like, boom, it's like Nicholas now. It's just different.
I'm the surprise, Toph. I'm the surprise.
It's just Cody.
Waking up on Christmas to Cody. Hello. So yeah, I mean, Cody Schwab, formerly IBDW, for those that are primarily listening here, been doing wonderful things, throughout the past year since he's been on the program, and so I think this really culminated in a fantastic. I believe it was something like an 11-set losers run at Big House, which is just absolutely grueling, and to win the whole thing. And so we really wanted to hear about that experience. He looked so excited and so full of life after that long run, actually. And so we want to hear how you're feeling. So first of all, Cody, how are you feeling, and what was that like?
Well, Morse Goat kind of gave me the work, and so after that, I was a little depressed. Went to losers, and pretty much, I didn't want to play anymore. But in the back of my head, I'm like, just get through day 2. If you get to day 3, like, magical things happen on Sundays at big tournaments. And so my goal is just get through it. Luckily, I got a Puff immediately, which I was like, thank God, because that's my comfort matchup. Then I played a Falco who came closer than everyone until Zane taking me out, the real thing. Almost just made me get, like, I think it was 17th or 25th, whatever it was. And that was way too close for comfort. Once I got to day 3, I woke up, I was like, all right, got another Puff. I looked at my bracket, I was like, yeah, I got a pretty good bracket in losers. Like, even if I don't have a bracket, you gotta fight. But I looked at it, I was like, all right, I got a Puff into Polish or Zuppy, which is hard, but I wanted to beat Polish because they beat me at tipped off, and I was upset about that set. So, and I had 3-0 in the time before. I beat them on net play against Sen, so I was like, let me solidify that real fast. And I saw I'd have None, who I was very good against in the past, but I think I was actually the best he's played in years, genuinely, at that tournament. So that was a lot harder than I thought at the time. And then I saw it have H-Box and then loser Plup Bomb. So I'm like, I got a great path to at least top 4, people that I just usually have a really good winning matchup against. So let me just try to get up on Sunday and see what I can do. And then once I got to Zane, I was like, all right, let's run it. And whatever happens, happens. And then at the end of the set, I almost didn't even realize it was over. I was like, oh, it's done. I won. Shit. Sick. And I was like, oh, I have to play more. And then obviously I played Mango, and I just had a good plan going in against him. I think last year I would try to force versus him way too much. And this year I'm like, no, you're going to come to me a lot more now. And then versus Plup, I'm just pretty comfortable versus Plup, but obviously he's absolutely fucking cracked. So it was just play well, see what happens.
And I think when we have you on the show a lot, I think something that you talk to us about and we hear from other players is about mentality and the growth in that aspect of the game. And you were saying, when you lost to Morse Code, you were feeling pretty sad. I was was wondering. We can talk about this tournament too, but I'm almost kind of curious on a larger scale. We think about the past year, what you've been learning in events that kind of led to you being able to have that stability in that moment and how you handled that.
A lot of it has been, so I think I even talked about in the past. I think you had me on after I won Riptide, not after Summit, right? It was after Riptide.
I believe so.
So I hadn't made this mind shift yet, but at that end of the year, I was like, all right, having fun is obviously just OP in bracket. Like, have a good time, and usually good things will come. But the trick isn't just to have fun; it's about learning about how to get your mind to have fun in bracket. because you're gonna have to, because pretty much everyone's gonna deal with intrusive thoughts at some point. You're gonna deal with the, am I good enough? Oh, I don't want to lose. Oh, I need to win. Whatever. How am I gonna make this happen? I think the real skill is not understanding that you need to have fun, but understanding how to kind of trick your brain into saying, all right, but let me figure out how to just ignore that. And a lot of that comes from out of game prep, but I think that's actually the most draining part of it, to be honest, and probably the thing that takes longest for almost everyone. I'm sure you compete at the top, PP, and usually when I saw you do really well, similarly enough, it's when you smiled and had a good time.
Mm-hmm.
Most of those times you actually did really well. If I think back to the Apex runs and I would see you laughing, shaking your head and stuff, that's usually a very powerful way to play. But it takes a lot of energy and focus to get there.
Do you think that's why you only lost to Samus, because Samus is no fun?
Oh, absolutely.
I'm just kidding.
I do not.
I'm just kidding, Samus players.
I'm not.
I'm just kidding with you guys. You guys are all right.
I'm not. I hate that matchup.
Do you?
What's the deal with Samus? Wait,
you just can't kill her early. It's just I hit her, and then I'm like, I gotta wait 20 seconds for you to come back. I just want to hit you again. It's like if I die here, then fine, I'm down. But just, it's like I'm just waiting for a cutscene.
I am curious about that actually, Cody, because I'm sure you know this, but Leffen went through a saga with Samus a few moons ago. And that was a real problem matchup for him, and he got clowned on a lot for it. But then he tightened it up, and that was pretty much okay. Well, the Foxes can play against Samus now, and so to hear you say that, it's kind of an interesting thing. So I'm kind of curious if you have any other thoughts on Fox Samus, like why this might be a recurring thing, or maybe Samus players are doing something new recently, or anything else.
I mean, I'm gonna be real. I'm gonna preface by saying Morse played great. Of course, I think Morse is a great player. Obviously, they 3-0 Jake earlier this year as well, in addition to beating me. So clearly, they're a talented player. After I had a close set with Weapons at Shine, I actually wanted to grind with Weapons a little bit, and I felt pretty good against Samus going into the tournament. I'm gonna be real. I think I SD'd 7 times that entire set, and as a spacey, sometimes you're gonna SD 7 times in a set. I feel like even at the top, you get like one of those a year, where it's just you threw yourself off stage, your hands weren't working, you were nervous, whatever. And to be fair, I've had those sets and still won because I was able to do well enough. Morse Code obviously took advantage of that, as he should. Deserved to win the set. I meant to discredit that. But if I look at it objectively and I'm like, all right, do I have a Samus problem? Like, am I great at the matchup? No. But should I have lost that if I play 95 out of 100 sets? No, not really. I don't think I lose that most times. So I do think it was a combination of those things, and obviously I want to get to the point where that doesn't happen, but
so it sounds like you're saying like you don't feel like your Samus game plan or anything is like particularly bad. It's just you were also playing pretty bad.
I think
and in some other matchups you can be playing that bad and still pull through.
Yeah,
but right now
hard
Samus
to get the early kills on Samus. Yeah, I'm not good enough against Samus to kind of bridge that if I'm playing poorly, and so it leads me to being uncomfortable, which also lends itself to you playing more sloppy or killing yourself more when you are uncomfortable. And obviously, Morse did a good job of like creating an awkward pace so that I felt even more uncomfortable. So for sure, there's stuff that I'll go back and try to work on. But it was, I would not like a mulligan because I went on a great losers run. In a vacuum, I would like a mulligan and try to redo that.
Well, I'm sure you'll both be at more events. There will be chances for that.
Yep.
Unless Nintendo has their say, of course. But speaking of, the Samus experience that day, just to come back to the mentality real quick, what was the shift you kind of made? Was there? How did you handle the feelings you had? What have you kind of learned in the past, several months or recently even that kind of helped you get through, that spot because you were playing, the way you said you had a lot of SDs and things like that, How do you get yourself, right enough? Because even though you want to make it to day 3, you still have other sets to play, right?
Yeah. So again, like I said, I was lucky that I got a comfort matchup immediately in losers, where I got to play Chango, and said I thought I was going to play Flash, and I was like, God, I have to play a laser campy Falco. Flash is obviously really fucking good, but I know he's very laser heavy. So I was like, that is not the matchup I want to run into immediately in losers, and I was pretty nervous because I knew I wasn't playing that well, and then I saw the puff, I was like, oh, thank you, Jesus. So that gave me a little bit of like a right the ship thing where I got to get my foundation a little bit. Thank you, Bram. But after that, it was really like, I don't think I played with a good mindset against the real thing. I just had enough grit to get through it. I'm not proud of how I handled day 2 at all, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Pretty much at all. But day 3...
And who was your last opponent on day 2?
The real thing. That's why I just had to get that through that Falco set, and then I was good.
Got it.
You were asking something though, PP. I didn't want to cut you off. What were you saying?
Oh no, it's fine. I
Sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
get it. Well, let's go ahead and do a small shift then. So if day 2 was that way, how do you adjust yourself for day 3? Because you're saying magical things happen, but they don't happen by accident, surely.
Emily yelled at me for 2 hours as one of them. But then the other
Okay.
thing is sleep does really help. Like a lot of times you go to bed when you're having a bad day and you wake up and the next day is just better because there's nowhere to go but up, right? And truly mentally, I was having a pretty awful day. I put a lot of pressure on myself for Big House, even though I didn't even mean to. Obviously, the stakes were high. It was kind of a fight for number 1. And personally, I had won Summit, right? I won Summit 12. I've won like a super major. Battle of BC was considered super major. But I hadn't won a Big House or a Genesis, right? And I feel like those are the two name bracket open majors that you really want as a competitor. And to me personally, like that is something that I was really striving for. And so I think that put on a lot of extra pressure for me. I also learned that Emily bantering with me for some reason gets me out of bad mindsets, which I guess makes sense at all. But we hadn't figured that one out yet. Then when I went to bed and woke up, I was like, all right, feel a little bit better. And then again, it's just go have fun. There's nothing else you can really do. Sometimes losing kind of takes the sting out of it too, because it's like the worst has already come. It's like I lost.
Yeah.
Morse Goat's a great player, but everyone's going to clown on you for losing to Samus. Everyone's going to clown on you for losing to a non-top 10 player. And that's just a reality that you face as someone who plays and is ranked highly. And so at that point, the worst is already behind you. Like, what the fuck else can go wrong? And that a lot of times that does help because it kind of takes that anxious away. It's like, all right, well, nothing can get any worse. Let's just go out and see what happens.
Well, hey, and you know, I mean, things didn't get any worse. In fact, they got a lot better, and you ended up winning, and it was a really cool thing.
That was crazy.
I guess we'll go really quickly for this. How'd that feel like at the end? Like, were you looking back and like, you know, I can't believe I did that, especially thinking about day 2? You know, what were the thoughts? What were the feelings?
I think I was so locked into each game that like when I hit it ended with like double shine, then neutral get up, wave shine, up smash, and I remember like all those games very well because I was super locked into them, and I was just thinking like, oh, it's over. Like I actually have no more sets to play. That's it. And so it took me probably 30 minutes to show, or not 30 minutes, like 30 seconds to a minute to show like any positive emotion because it was literally my brain coming down from just hyper focus for that entire time because there was nothing else. Like again, you can't do anything else. What are you going to do? And then afterwards, I was like, okay, sick. It's finally fucking over. And then I don't think it still really hit like the magnitude of the run because, and I don't want to sound like ultra self-absorbed, but it was like obviously a very insane losers run that almost no one has been able to say they've done. I don't think that's really hit yet because of just obviously I was tired and then the Nintendo stuff comes out right afterwards. Right. So I didn't really get a chance to let it simmer and really enjoy the stream. But I think when I look back on it, especially like in a week or so, I'll be like, damn, that was fucking good shit, man. You really came a long way because years ago I would have fallen apart. There's no way I'd make that. So it's something to look on and be proud of.
Yeah, we do remember not so long ago there were those times of getting flustered after a loss or even mid set, and so I think that is really impressive and a real mark of that change. And you know, as we think kind of about going forward and other improvements we're going to make, you know, I've been thinking about this and talking about this on my stream. It's a tweet you made, I think early this year, and it's one. And I'm curious how you feel about this because we're looking for the future. We're thinking about Nintendo and everything else right now, and you were saying, okay, well, if I don't find anything by upcoming Genesis, the one at the beginning of next year, you know, I'm going to retire. That's what you said. And so, you know, how has that progressed? What are your feelings on that now? Because you know, I don't. You're a man of your word, absolutely, and I know that for sure. So I'm curious if the deadline's been shifted, if you're how you're feeling about all that, because Melee's in a very interesting spot right now, and maybe there's a lot of doomerism, so maybe not the best time for this question, but maybe it's the perfect time as well.
So I don't remember the exact language I used on the tweet, but I said I think I said the team was the easiest avenue. Other ways to support myself if they come up will also be considered. And luckily something that did happen is so a lot of people got fucked over by the Twitch change, where up to a certain amount of money you make the 30-70 split, and then over that you go back to 50-50. So I know like probably Mango's losing out a lot of money because I'm sure he makes over 100 grand. You just see the math and you know he does. But I did not have a 30-70 split. I always had a 50 split. So the fact that changed and it's probably giving me an extra like 10 to 20 to 30K depending on how well I do each year streaming is definitely massive. So as long as I can keep my stream up, for sure, I have a much better avenue to keep myself sustained. So as of right now, I don't have a plan to retire immediately. It also helps that I had a very successful year. Because obviously, like, me and Zane are pretty much neck and neck for one. It just depends on what you value. I have higher peaks, but I also have lower lows. And I really think there's a very genuine argument for either of us to be number one, pretty much no matter which way you cut it. And I obviously would not be mad at all if he got number one, because he's fucking an amazing player who absolutely deserves to get that if he so does receive it. But I do think that my career has definitely taken off in some ways, and my stream's done very well recently. And now, like, when I do a subathon and I get one of those months where I get like 2.5 to 3K subs, that's an extra $3,000 from that one event before accounting for anything else that I'm getting. So I should be able to sustain myself right now. I still would really like the team so that I could have proof of income to buy a house, so I could move out and really kind of do things the way I want to. But as of right now, I think Melee took a really positive turn. I also think my perception has changed a little bit, enough to the point where I feel more comfortable doing this longer term. And again, my fault, because I don't know how to explain myself a lot of times, and I don't understand how I come off a lot of times to a lot of people, where I'll say something like, "Why you're an asshole?" I'm like, "I didn't even realize I was an asshole. I'm sorry. I'm just unaware." But luckily, I've had a lot of help with people trying to shift my PR. So it's gotten a lot better this year, and the likelihood of me feeling like I need to leave as a result of that in Twitch has gone down substantially, for sure.
No, well, hey, that's wonderful. And for any of you listening that would like to keep the narratives going in Melee and would like to keep Cody around, you know where to go now. You can go ahead and plug your Twitch now if you want, Cody.
Just Cody Schwab. But I do appreciate it.
Yeah, so just wanted to check in on that, and so it sounds like you're not too concerned about this whole Nintendo situation. I'm sure we'll get callers asking about it, but just to get your thoughts real quick.
Sorry, just double checking. You just asked me for the Nintendo stuff, right?
Yeah, you're not terribly concerned, it sounds.
No. So when I read it through, at first I thought it was going to be a lot worse than it actually was, especially because the Japanese guidelines were way more strict than the North American guidelines wound up being. But the more I read into it and the more I looked at it, I was like, okay, it's pretty clear to me that a lot of these rules are just, it's not even that they're not enforceable. No one's going to stop a 20-person local because it's in a bar and that sells food. Like, that's just never going to happen. They're not going to come and shut you down for that unless you do something to provoke it. So the more I looked at it and a lot of the language in it, I was like, it seems like a lot of what they're doing is aimed at one thing right now, and that's Coinbox, which sucks for me, obviously, because I make a lot of money from Coinbox, but I doesn't feel like they're trying to shut down any of the larger events, because all they're saying is, well, you just need a license if you have over this many people.
Yeah,
and
Genesis said they were still running.
Yeah, and all these events already have licenses, and there's already portals to apply for licenses for various things. I know people brought up that there's no way to apply for a Melee license. They're not going to just not let you apply for a Melee license. If they do, the backlash is going to be actually like catastrophic for them. That will be really bad. There's no way they would survive that from a PR standpoint. So
I sure hope so.
No, there's no way they wouldn't do it anyways. I really don't think so. The way it seemed was that they just want you to apply for a license so that they have a way to like cover their bases. The community tournament just seems like a way to cover their bases, so that if someone does something really stupid, they can be like, "Hey, we already gave you these guidelines, and you're still just not listening to this thing that we are asking you to do." And now they can have something to point and be like, "All right, we got to shut you down. Like this, you knew what you were supposed to do. You blatantly broke it." It doesn't seem like they have an interest in coming after most of the regionals, though, because most of the guidelines to regionals already fit into anyways. And for a major, if that portal, supposedly, again, not my words, Jabali said that this is a much easier process, and Watch from Japan said that one of the Japanese majors got their license in 3 weeks. So if that's actually the turnaround period, majors should realistically be fine. They just have to apply for a license, and then that means you have to run Unfrozen Nintendo. And don't run UCF, because we've never run UCF, and why would we ever run UCF?
Of course not.
Right.
So as long as you don't do any of that, there doesn't seem to be a problem that I can see right now. And I could just be being way too overly optimistic, but it's inconvenient. It's annoying. I don't think it's going to be well, and I think most majors will be fine realistically.
Yeah, I agree with you on the online thing. Like with, I don't know if it's necessarily like aimed at aimed at Coinbox, but I do think it makes it.
Yeah,
that's
those
like
types
that's
of
like
events.
if anything gets enforced, it would be something like that probably.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, I think on the other side of things, I saw like, for example, I saw some box players like Swift freaking out. I don't really, to my knowledge, there's already kind of some language and like and the licensing for the like the license. What should I say? Like, there's already some stuff like that in the licenses that major tournaments are already using, but like no one's ever enforced. Like no one's gonna enforce a box.
It's there for their protection, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And if they don't want you to use a box, turn off the fucking player cam. Like, what else are they? And then what are they going to say? Oh, this Nintendo representative knows that this is a digital input, and therefore this is a box player. Now we have to shut down. Like, no, nobody's going to do that. They're not going to know. So that's why they have to know it's not feasible.
And as far as things like even as far as things like Coinbox, which you did bring up, I mean, Coinbox was kind of always in danger. Like like this doesn't really change anything. Like these guidelines they're nothing new. Like it's not like we were under the delusion that you couldn't that it was okay before or something. Like
you just have giant name sponsors. Like we already know tournaments have been gotten in trouble for sponsors. That's it's nothing new.
And running tournaments on Slippy. Like obviously that literally happened like 3 years ago with
and it got canceled.
I mean, it just is what it is. So yeah, hopefully it's just kind of this outrage on. I'll start a Blur for a little bit about it, and he was kind of saying that his take is that like I think I agree with this. I think it's not that Nintendo necessarily wants to destroy us, but they do want to control us.
Yeah,
and
agreed.
I think this is like a step in that direction. So, well, I don't know. I hopefully this is just the Twitter backlash of the week, and then we kind of move on with
until I actually every year, dude.
No, it definitely does.
This happens every year, and then every year it's like, okay, we had some minor inconvenience and we moved on. So I'm not too worried about it. Not yet, at least. Maybe
not yet. Yeah,
something else comes out. When I see the licensing terms, I think the other thing about when I see the licensing terms, from my perspective, is the language of that and what they go after for what a licensed tournament is allowed to do will tell me a lot about what their intentions were with the unlicensed tournaments. Because let's say I see another thing where it's like third-party equipment specifically is not allowed there. I'm like, okay, maybe they actually really don't want third-party controllers. But if I see that that's like not a problem there, I'm like, okay, they were probably going after something else with that because why would they allow it for one and not the other? It just doesn't make
right. Like if why would they explicitly disallow, for example, box controllers at unlicensed tournaments, but like allow them at majors? That doesn't really make much sense.
Exactly. So that'll tell me a lot about not what's like technically legal, but what their intentions and what they're actually trying to enforce.
Yeah.
And then it's about just take the things that they obviously really don't want you to do and just don't do them. And we should probably be fine. But that's just my take. And obviously, people who are worried, I think you're completely justified to be worried to some extent.
Yeah, I mean, they're not leaving us alone, and we are going to see what they're going to do. But you know what? We might have callers bringing in more about this, so we'll leave a little bit of room, a little bit of floor for that. But in the meantime, if you're thinking about calling in, please use !Radio Melee in my Twitch chat or Toph's. We are doing this every week, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, in my Twitch channel and Toph's. I said that twice. And you can come through, join the Discord, use the GG React in the rules channel, and then the Melee React in the assigned roles. And you can pop on over and ask questions. We'll be glad to get you in live on air. Or you can use our voicemail, which we will possibly put on screen or something else, but we don't have a voicemail question for today. That being said, we're going to go ahead and look at our community voice from last week before we get into our caller questions. And we're going to hope we can get some of you on soon. We had Frenzy on last week, and Frenzy was asking about a really cool question that I happen to really like a lot for some reason. It was about this wonderful lad PPMD and your favorite Falco set of his. Golly, let's look at those answers. We have 3 wonderful answers here. The first one, boy, this is really weird to do, I have to say. The first one is from Mr. Dr. Boy saying, if I had to pick one PPMD set, how am I going to get through this? If I had to pick one as my favorite, it would be Winners Finals of Skatar 3 versus Mango. My favorite moment is actually in Game 3 where Mango was up 3 stocks to 1 and kind of silent, but then PB punishes him for it, gets a kill, and nearly takes another stock. It felt like he totally stole all the momentum Mango had built up, and even though he lost that game, he won the set the next game. Very cool of me. I agree. How do I do this? What do I do? Do I just let Toph do the rest of these? This is weird. That was cool when I did that, I guess.
I think you're doing. I think you're doing awesome. I think you're doing awesome, just like you did in our next set, which is. Oh wow! I didn't think we'd wait. Is this a real tournament?
This is a real tournament.
Believe in.
It was from this guy Bill's house. We ran locals. I guess maybe I'll. Yeah, I was in June of 2009, and I beat Chudat twice. And this was when Chu wasn't playing a whole lot, but he was still really good, and he was kind of farming North Carolina for money.
Chu, man, it's funny to say that in 2009 because I feel like Chu. Yeah, it's really. It is impossible for me to keep track of when Chu is playing a lot and when he's not. June of 2009, I don't know. Is Chu playing a lot? Maybe he's not. And then, and then he beats Mango. When did he beat Mango 3 times in a row? That was like 8 years later. Whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, gotta go deep here. PP versus Chudat Grand Finals at Don't Stop Believing of June 2009. Dude, I was active in the Melee community in June 2009. I never heard of this tournament in my life.
This was my first big win. Really.
What do you mean your first big win? Like your first like top 20 in the world win?
Yeah, it was a in my view anyway. It seemed like my first time beating like one of those like really higher caliber, not like top 5-ish, but higher caliber players. Even though he however much he was playing, and he was also farming people in Brawl at the same time, so he still had that going for him. But
so this was your like when Zane beat Plup at Big House, and that was kind of like his like breakout win. This was that for you.
Yeah, I mean it was a smaller event, but yeah.
Okay. Huh. I didn't know this at all. Now I kind of wonder what every top player is. Cody, who's your first big, like your first like breakout, great top player or whatever, top 20 in the world, let's say win.
And a local, regional, or major? What are you talking about? I feel like that matters a lot.
Well, this is a regional, so let's say at least at a regional level. But even at a local level, I'm kind of curious.
Probably one of the Apollos, where I beat like one of the 80 redacted NYC players.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
My first big regional win was definitely NYXL. That was December 2018. After I think I had dropped out of law school, if I remember correctly, and I beat I was just ranked 34th, but then I beat Toussaint, Hugs, who was good at the time, Hacks, and Swedish to win the tournament.
Oh wow!
And that's when Swedish was like 15.
That's really good. Yeah,
that was probably my first big one. Yeah, that was in person. That was NYXL's a New York City event, and then probably the next Genesis was my first really good major. I got 33rd, but I beat Android, Gatsu, and someone else that was really good. And no, that was not. That's not what I'm thinking about. So probably, I guess the first really big major would have been that Oh,
his memory is so good.
I'm trying to think of what the timeline was.
I'm really good at remembering people I beat too. I'm not very good at remembering.
Smash and Splash was before, so that would be the Smash Splash where I beat Pew Pew Bananas back to back. And,
oh wow!
And I think Johnny. No, Pew Pew had beaten Johnny, so I beat Johnny. So I beat Pew Pew Bananas, one other person that I'm not remembering, but I lost like Leffen and fucking Hungry Box for 9th.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty wild. So yeah, this is a pretty long response. I'm not going to read the whole thing. But it sounds like you were patient and did not get frustrated with Chudat's antics in the game, as we've seen players in the past fall.
We have seen that a lot of times.
We have, and we've seen that with PP in general too. You don't get too frustrated by antics. I'll read the third one too, since you're saying it's a little bit,
Thank you.
I get it. Alice,
I can read the third one.
Okay, you read the third one.
Oh, yeah. One for each. Just summing it up to speak to my username. The CH is pronounced like sh in Brazilian Portuguese, so it would be Alice Sharona, I guess.
Sharona.
Corona means crybaby, or Chirona means crybaby, if I'm not mistaken. Gotcha, Alice Sharona. Community voice to me is PP versus MTK in ROM 3 Grand Finals.
Good one.
And just because of the crazy Rainbow Cruise combo in the last game, gotta be the coolest stock ever taken in a jank stage in high level competition. And the fact it was the last stock Grand Finals just gave more points to it.
I actually do think that for me, that's probably like the most memorable.
Probably.
Like the way you won, like I know, like I feel like I can remember the entire combo.
Dog, you played tournaments for grands on Rainbow Cruise. Jesus Christ. Sorry, I had a moment of realization. I'm like, wow, I cannot believe that.
It was a different time. That was pretty much the last tournament that used it, though. Partly because I beat M2K, I think, but also, yeah, they were getting rid of it anyway. Yeah, I've been playing for a while. We had, greens was even legal for a little bit when I started, so it was a very different time. Truly one of the stages of all time.
Great answers.
Wow, yeah, great answers. And you know what? Wonderful question as well. Great job reading. I think we all just killed it today collectively. Good stuff.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Well, if you want to kill it, you can dial in, and we've got a couple people who've asked questions. ! Radio Melee as always. Also, I guess we should plug that we do have a voicemail line that we have set up. 525-826-4274. Those were 11 random numbers. What is it? 213-347-5242. I was super close.
You had that.
I had that. Oh,
you had that Cody memory.
Someone's gonna dial that other number. Actually, I guess it probably doesn't go to anyone. So don't do that. But yeah, call in 213-347-5242, and you can leave a question here as well. I don't believe we have a voicemail question this week, unless we do.
No, I think we're going to be taking live callers today.
Yeah, we got a couple callers, so.
I just got really offended by my chat. Someone thought I made the religion tier list.
You did not.
No, I definitely did not make the religion tier list.
Important clarification for everyone involved.
I did not make that.
I forgot who did make it. Whatever.
I'm not going to say.
Yeah, I'll DM it to you. Okay. I did like your message to me though, Toph.
About the Schwab network.
Yeah, he's like,
I think about you every day.
Network.
Schwab is my broker, so I think about you every day.
Oh, you Charles Schwab?
I am.
Let's go.
Let's go, dude. Let's go. Okay, well, we do have a couple callers. It seems like they're shorter questions. Okay, so let's get our first caller, and it is going to be, I believe, a repeat caller. Maybe not. I don't know. Whatever. Tarzan XXX04. Welcome to the program. What do you got for us today?
Hey, Toph. Thanks for having me on. I am a repeat caller, actually, so I appreciate you remembering me. So
that's right.
Yeah, it was a while back, but it is a question for all three of you. It's going to be a little bit on the shorter side, but it's something I think that's very important. Cody, specifically for you, while you were competing, I know that mentality was a huge thing, and the mental game of Melee was a huge thing when you were playing as you were coming up in the Melee ranks. So what were things and steps that you took as a competitive player to like set up your mental game in such a way that, you weren't suffering a loss? You know what I mean? Like what were those steps you took?
I think the biggest thing is understanding. So if you have a bad reaction to something, or you have like anxiety, or you have a negative reaction to losing, usually that's rooted in something out of the game. So either it's upsetting because your rank is going down. Okay, sure, but why are you saying about the rank going down? Is it because you're worried about people's perceptions? Or you're worried about the fact that you're not good enough? And understanding the answer to that is usually very instructive in figuring out how to work on it from there, because you really have no way to work on that outside of physically addressing. It's almost like a therapy session, right? That insecurity comes from somewhere, and so understanding that and trying to address it out of the game, almost always one-to-one will benefit you directly in game. And for me, it was a lot of trial and error, because I had a lot of stuff that I just personally needed to unpack, and obviously I have a neurodivergency, which makes it a little bit additionally difficult to unpack a lot of my emotions, but it also makes it very easy for me to logically work my way through emotions. So it's kind of a double-edged sword in that regard. But I don't know if double-edged sword is the right thing, actually, because that sounds like it's bad on both ends, but whatever. So I would say that just being really in tune with where your negative reactions stem from is probably the most important thing, because then once you can directly address it, it's much more likely that you're in a tournament, you're like, all right, well, if I lose, my rank goes down, but I don't really care about my rank that much anymore. I just want to get better at Melee. And that makes it a much easier thing. The other thing I would say is focusing on goals that you can directly achieve. Some people are like, oh, I want to get ranked number 1, or I want to win this tournament. And I'm like, okay, well, what if the person next to you just plays the absolute best Melee of their life, and you just happen to not play, like you're just not there yet? That's not something that you can realistically control. So being, 1, realistic about your goals, but 2, making them something that you can obviously achieve. Like, okay, I want to work on this gameplay issue. I'm not hitting my ledge dashes, or I'm a Falco and I'm just double lasering from ledge. I want to make sure I ledge dash this tournament. You can directly control that. And so being able to have that and walk away with something that is completely in your control that you can see, okay, this was good. I did what I needed to. I think also makes it a lot easier. For me, that was like having fun with the sets, as long as I'm smiling and having a good time doing what I'm supposed to.
I think you used the phrase double-edged sword correctly.
Okay, I wasn't sure. I have no idea if I did.
I think you did.
Well, I didn't know like PP or Toph, if you had any comment on like, you know, the mental game status. I know PP, I know that you were, you know, a guy who played back in like, you know, the first generation of Five Gods. So I'm interested to know if that kind of mental game kind of applies in the same way.
To take a kind of different approach, I mean, it does, but something that was really valuable to me that I didn't even know really how valuable it was when I was coming up was just I recognized that there would be things that would kind of get in the way of my focus sometimes, and I'd be like, okay, this doesn't matter. All that matters is the game. And that served me really well for a really, really long time up until, you know, I had a lot of attention from other people, and then a lot of other thoughts came in, and I couldn't autopilot that anymore. And so I think, you know, from a player standpoint, there's a lot of the great things that Cody said, but there's also the, you know, a lot of this stuff, you know, you're kind of messing with yourself on that, or you're letting other people mess with you, and you need to kind of just let the noise be noise and do your own thing, to say it more like a player, but to, you know, oh, and my camera's gone.
See ya.
Oh, my camera gone. Well, I'm gonna keep talking, and I'll try and. It's.
Oh, there you go.
Well, there we are. But I was gonna say, yeah, for something larger, you know, when you're thinking about, you know, these deeper issues. I mean, it really is just, it is so important. It's an always evolving process. You know, there were times where I thought I had it all figured out, and then there would be a whole nother layer, a whole nother several layers that would open up to me. So I think, you know, accepting, you know, how deep and powerful Melee is, and how much it challenges you, and the other people will challenge you, is so important, and it's such an ever evolving process. And so I think some people kind of get overwhelmed, or like, I don't want to deal with that part of myself. I just want to play, or I don't care about these things, or whatever. And sure, that's fine. But I also think it can be such an enriching thing for you in your life if you do, you know, approach that in whatever way makes sense best for you. And for some people, maybe it doesn't take the form of talking about it or working through it. Maybe there is, you know, some sort of like body work, or whatever else that can be done to, you know, let those emotions go. And so I think there's a lot of ways to, you know, work with this, and try to keep some fun aspect even in this, but just to balance out what Cody's saying, because I agree with, you know, everything he said about that. I just thought I'd offer a little bit of a different way of looking at it.
Yeah, the only thing I'll add, I talked to Cody a little bit about this in the, you know, in the kind of the winners interview we did after the tournament. But yeah, same for me. I mean, obviously I'm not competing at the level of Cody, but I mean, I really dig it. I really do think it kind of carries all the way down. Like, even for me, when I'd go to tournaments and set goals of like, okay, I want to make top 48, just whatever number, or top whatever. And I have some kind of expectation on myself that's kind of like an extrinsic thing. It would just put pressure on me, and I'd get nervous. And if I would go to a tournament, I'd say my goal is to have fun and play as well as I can. Then I would just play better. So I really think that I really do think, I mean, everyone I've talked to, has some kind of similar story, and I just really feel like, you know, at the end of the day, mentality wise, it just makes it's just a lot better to have these intrinsic goals rather than have these extrinsic goals, focusing inward instead of on people's perceptions. Because I think the latter is what's going to make you a lot more nervous and kind of put you in that sort of negative headspace. Yeah,
For sure.
But great question. Thank you, Tarzan, for calling in.
Over
Yeah,
that
I
answers.
appreciate it. And Toph, I hope to see you out at Genesis, because I'm going to be TOing the Tetris tournament out there.
Oh, awesome. Tetris tournament. All right.
I love
Yeah.
Tetris.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd love for you guys to stop by. So,
As someone who's TO'd a puzzle game at Genesis, that's why I'm still on technically I'm on the Genesis admin team on StarGG. From one Genesis puzzle game TO to another, welcome.
thank you. I appreciate
That
it.
ass.
Yeah. All right. Well, if there's any shout outs you want to do before we let you go, now is the time, sir.
Shout outs to the Classic Tetris World Championship that just happened a couple weeks ago out in Portland. Shout out to Fractal. He's our 2023 world champion. Starting out the world tour. We're going to be starting it in NorCal. So shout outs to all the team that was working on that as well. Shout outs to the Melee community for, just being awesome in general. And shout outs to you guys for, allowing us to come on and ask some really cool questions.
Shout outs to you, man. Coming on.
Appreciate it. Have a good one.
You too.
See ya.
He said World Tour, and I was like, I remember when we had a World Tour.
I was like,
I know.
Must be nice.
Like, oh, that might not have been the right word.
It's okay. It's okay.
Maybe in 50 years.
Maybe.
All right. Have a good one, gamer.
Have a good one.
You too.
Okay, now we have got our next guest lined up. Oh, and I see that they have a very cool thing in brackets in front of the name. It says Eggdog Esports.
Wow.
Hello, Eggdog Esports, Jed. Welcome to the program. Where are you calling in from?
And good, bro.
Is your question for us today, gamer? Also, you're muted.
Jed, come on, get with it, man.
Hello, I'm calling from beautiful and dreary Seattle, Washington. And my question is for Cody Schwab.
Oh, it was good.
My question is, I know you said Emily helped you a ton getting out of your funk on day 2. But was there anyone else, particularly in the crowd or in person, that you think helped you out in your bracket run to make the greatest losers run of all time?
Surely you're talking about fellow enthusiast Etost, who was the loudest person I've ever heard in my life.
I was thinking Etost. You were going to say Etost. I knew it.
I'll say Eggdog has been with me at 2 tournaments, and both times I made 2 crazy losers runs. Because Battle of BC, I lost to Zane in that wild Game 5 set where he messed me up Game 5 after clutching Game 4 or 3, and then Game 4 was a close one. Then in losers, I went down. I beat Johnny, but then I beat Jake, Zane in the Game 5 run back, and then took the 2 off AMSA, which was a great losers runner tournament of its own, because I think something that we don't talk about a lot in the modern days, loser runs are actually much more rare now. But then, obviously, Big House is the only other time I've hung out with them, and I could hear these motherfuckers the entire time. And I'll say they did a good job keeping me like super pepped up. They're like, you got this, you got this, you got this. Like, and that the thing that finally stuck with me was like, listen, win or lose, we got you. Just go out there and play. And I was like, all right, I can do that. I can do that. And obviously, these guys got me to half the tournaments I wanted to go to this year. So if you can, you should definitely support their shop. And even if you don't like me, which I just realized some of you might, because I might have been your favorite player. But I'm sure you like Plup or something, and they support Plup, or Kalindi and they support Kalindi, or B-Bats or Salt, and I'm sure you like at least one of them, right? Come on.
Eggdog's doing a whole lot of good for the scene. It would be great to support him. And look how nice they were to Cody. Look at the nice things they said to him. Look at them doing a whole lot, and they have possibly even more plans. That's a very cool thing. So, yeah, hey, shout outs to you know what, Etost and Jed and everyone else involved.
Thank you, Jed. I appreciate you guys.
Of course. And to Toph and PP, do you guys want to shout out anyone you guys have ever had in your corner throughout your long and lustrous careers in Melee?
That's an awesome question. I actually need to man. Dude, actually it is funny because it really can propel you, when you got somebody cheering for you to win a push through and kind of persevere in tournament or something like that. My favorite example, I guess I got to give a shout out to None. So I didn't enter this year Genesis. Was this last Genesis? Genesis 8? Genesis 8 or 9. Either Genesis 8 or 9. I had to play against Dream, I believe Mexican Ganon, who's considered like one of the best Ganons, and I was really nervous about it because I'd heard really good things about Dream, and I asked None, obviously None who plays Ganon. I was like, hey None, can you do me a favor? Can you warm me up for Ganon, because I have to play Dream? And None came over and played a bunch of games with his Ganon against me. Now, normally when I play Nunn's Ganon, he kind of gives me that work. I think he's sandbag because I beat him like 4 friendlies in a row, and I literally think he was like not trying very hard to give me confidence, because I'm never favorable against Nunn's Ganon. And then after sandbagging against me, but playing well enough to give me good warm up, he then puts on he's like, hang on, I'm gonna do one more thing for you, and then he puts on his Bond sunglasses, because he's got his Bond sunglasses, and he stands menacingly right next to me as Dream walks up to the setup, and I see Dream look at None, and Dream's like, I saw him go like, oh shit, like he was kind of freaking out a little bit, and then None continued to stand with the sunglasses on and his arms folded right behind me through our entire set.
That's sick.
And I still barely won. But I truly believe that Nunn did as much as he possibly could have for me. That's it.
amazing.
I really
That's
don't think I would have
funny.
won
I like it a
otherwise.
lot.
So yeah. So that was that. So I really got to give a lot of credit to Nunn for that win.
That's impressive.
And
That's
to Bond.
And to Bond, of course.
Bond specifically.
Bond would love that shout out.
Yeah.
Or not. I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't have anything that impressive. I don't know. When I think back to the help I've had, it really just more than any one person, I just feel like North Carolina, even now, because I went to a local kind of recently for various reasons, and then the crowd was still really loud. They still got really excited. They still got really hyped for stuff. And to me, that's really, that's something that it's a crowd that's like almost upset people by how hype they've got. Not in a bad way. They not like
North Carolina gets loud.
Yeah, so it's a lot of fun, and so I think in some ways just having that and just having such a passionate group of people that's generally supported me has just been a wonderful thing, and so I try not to take that for granted, and so it's rather than singling out any individual, and there have been some that have been supportive, the whole time I've been playing or most of it and everything, and certainly they know who they are, but the people that just the whole scene, everyone involved, everyone that keeps that spirit alive. I love that. So that's going to be mine.
Awesome.
That's beautiful.
First question.
Thank you.
I wouldn't expect anything lost from an egg dogger.
Well, hey, thank you so much for calling in. You got any shout outs for us on your way out today?
Obviously I gotta rep, my team, Egg Dog Esports. Give us a follow if you haven't already.
Please.
And I hope to see everyone here at Smash and Scramble in January. I know Cody's coming.
That's right.
Hope to see everyone else. All right. Thanks.
All right. Thank you so much.
Have a good one.
Play Fortnite soon.
Fortnite.
Well, our next caller talked about Fortnite. Let's find out. We've got Space Pope. What's up, Space Pope?
Space Pope.
Where are you calling in from? And what's your question for us today, gamer?
Yeah, I'm calling in from Michigan, kind of up in the thumb. Used to live in the Detroit area, actually, not far from Big House. And I just wanted to say that as like an avid stan of the Mango Zane tier, I do want to say I'm an open-minded fan, and I embrace the idea that Cody is #1 on the year after the results of Big House 11. And I wanted to know, Toph and PP, what do you think about that?
No bias, though.
No bias, yeah.
Bias,
Just pretend that he's not. Right. Pretend that he's not in the call with us.
I'm gonna give it to Zane out of
I
can't put it to myself. It just feels weird.
You're saying the #1 spot?
Yeah. I don't want to say that I'm #1. I just feel
well,
weird.
Here's the problem with me doing this right now is I don't remember what my recollection was that it was really close between you and Zane, and that Big House performance could swing it one way or the other. Right? That was my recollection. So for me, I feel like it's going to you. I mean, unless there's some other tournaments that some major tournaments that happen towards the end of the year. But I mean, what's the head-to-head between you and Zane right?
6-6.
Okay. So
it's 6-6. I have higher peaks and I also have lower lows because at Genesis and Big House he did worse because I think he got 4th to me actually at both. I think both times he lost me for 4th. But and then I got 2nd at first at the Super Majors. But obviously I had a bad tipped off where I got 13th losing to Bulging Adoran. He doesn't have anything like that. And yeah, I don't care about the Morse code loss as much because I won the tournament through losers. I feel like I have a bad loss early, but if I win that many sets in a row, it's like it doesn't outweigh the tournament win at the Super Major. But so I actually think it's just a matter of what you value, and I'm definitely not offended if someone gets it to Zane at all. I think Zane's fucking an amazing player. And my biggest inspiration as a melee competitor by a good margin.
And what is the
tournament wins? We both have 4. It's dead even, man. I'm telling you, it's ridiculous.
Have we tried flipping a coin to decide?
Hey, we might have to, man. I don't know. It's 4-4. We both have 4 tournaments. I technically have 2 super majors, but Battle of BC is a smaller super major, and I still like that he doesn't have any bad tournaments. I think the worst he got was 5th he might have got a 7th. I think the worst.
Yeah,
he could
but I mean, losing to Kadoran and Polish. I mean, it's 13th, but like also losing to Kadoran and Polish isn't actually that bad.
But the thing is, I think the only losses he's had this year, has he lost anyone that isn't me, Amsa, Jake, or Leffen?
Yeah, you would have been so in the clear if you lost to Osfight. This would have been like the easiest.
Yeah,
this would have been the easiest call.
But he's literally only lost to 4 players. But the thing is, he has like the losing record to Jake, and then he's 1-2 with Leffen. 0-2. Did he beat Leffen this year? I don't know. I have no idea. So it's just fucking. It's weird. I don't know how to deal with that. I don't envy the voters at all.
Huh.
It's hard.
Okay, yeah, I don't know. That's
These
close call.
questions are just not ones that are built for me. I don't remember all the stuff, and I don't know.
Here's another.
I gotta also say that.
I
I was just gonna say that also at Big House you did beat like everyone, and so I'm just thinking of like if you get points or lose points based on who you beat and lose to, I feel like you get a lot of points for that losers run.
Yeah, but obviously losing to more split is not great. So it's like it's just a lose. I'll say, Space Hope. Do you mind if I change the question to something that might be a little more easy to answer?
Yeah.
With your, I was gonna ask, has number 1 ever been even close to this contentious? Ever?
Yeah, it's pretty close, right? Like there was Mango Zane, and there's right now it's you and Zane, and I think this is closer. Like it's actually nose to nose, right?
Yeah, I don't know if number 1's ever been this contentious. I don't know what you guys think in your recollection of history.
I think
it's weird.
I think we haven't had a year with even that might not be entirely true, but I think it's somewhat safe for me to say. It feels like we haven't had such a back and forth year. Like sometimes we have someone that does really well in like the first half and someone that does really well in the second half, and that's kind of confusing, and that I feel like that happens kind of often. And then so that can be kind of lopsided towards like whichever half has more tournaments or whatever. But we haven't had a year where I think it's felt as back and forth. I guess there were. I remember, Toph, if you remember, there was at least 2014-ish where Armada and Mango were like trading like every other weekend. It felt like wins or something like that, and that's the only thing that felt kind of comparable. But even that is like not cool. I don't know if it's quite the same or not.
It's close. It's fun. It's part of the reason I tried really hard at China Big House, mostly because I think the storylining for community was really good. Obviously, I want to fucking win, but it gave me like a little bit of an extra boost because it's like if Zane wins either of those, the year's just not interesting anymore.
Still a cool year.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting. I guess it, at least in this particular style and the way it's played out, I'd say this is pretty neat, and for it to be so confusing by year's end, I think is also kind of new, where sometimes like I think you
have some idea.
Like halfway through the year, I think there can be a lot of confusion. I think even like 3/4 of the way, I think there can be confusion. I think we felt that before, but like I guess around this point, I think things are usually a little more solidified. So the fact that there's still confusion, I think, is probably kind of surprising. I think. It's pretty. I think I would say that. But again, the Melee Stats people are probably the ones for this, not me. I don't know.
Too close to call. Too close to call at this point in time. You'll have to wait to see what ends up happening.
Just depends on what you value. I really think that's about it. Do you value the peaks at the super majors, or do you value the consistency? And that's kind of a crapshoot. So I have no idea.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, we all know that whoever gets number 1 is in fact the better person. So
absolutely. So it really matters.
Yeah,
it matters so much.
Right.
This is the most important thing we'll talk about today. Thank you, Space Pope, for calling in. Do you have any shout outs for us on your way out today?
Yeah. Shout out to Godoran. Hope he's feeling better, and shout out to you, Cody, for winning Big House, man.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Best of luck. Best wishes as always to Godoran.
Love Junko.
Yeah.
Have a good one, Space Pope. All right. Well, I don't believe we've got anyone else having their mic checked, so I think that's going to be all for our questions.
I have a story about the phrase. Now that we're done with our callers, I have a story about the phrase double-edged sword.
Okay, go for it.
Yeah, so this is like an inside joke between me and Scar, but I'm sharing it with the world right now. It's because it's a special episode. If you made it to the end of the episode, then you get to be on the
Story
inside.
time.
Yeah, so okay, I don't remember what the context was, but basically like one time we were talking to Mango about something, and Mango was like he wanted to say that something that was he was like, yeah, something, 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 but something, something, something. And he wanted to say that it was like a double-edged sword. Whatever it was. He was like, maybe he was talking about something in Melee, like some move or something, like it's like risky, you know, there's like payoff, but it's risky. And he was trying to find the phrase double-edged sword. But you know, like Mango, he's got his like funny way with words. So he's like, yeah, it's like the sword that can also cut you. And Bobby looked at me like with this look, like, did he mean double-edged sword? But he didn't say anything because like is the middle point. And every time we want to use the phrase double-edged sword, like Bobby looks at me, he's like, yeah, it's like a sword that can cut you. And it's just become this inside joke that we look at each other and we're like, yeah, this is like a sword that could cut you. And to this day, I don't think Mango knows that we've been kind of appropriating this Mango phrase. But yeah, anytime I hear about double-edged swords, I'm always thinking about that.
I feel like I could so perfectly imagine Mango saying that too.
Yeah.
And being like so convincing with how he's saying it.
Yeah. 100%. It's yeah, it's a very Mango turn of phrase, let's say. But anyway, I wanted to share that with y'all just because it came up earlier and we were talking about the nature of that phrase. So
no,
it was kind of pertinent on my mind.
I like that.
That's a good story.
Thanks.
And hopefully we get swords that don't cut us here in our final segment. Wow, look at him go. He's still trying to do segues,
Amazing.
even at the end of the show. It's the community voice. That's what we're doing.
Ooh.
And Cody surely knows his community voice.
I have to. I'm sorry, guys.
He has to. He's sorry, guys.
Give me your top 3 losers runs of all time. Alternatively, you can just give me your favorite one. I want to know.
Favorite losers runs. I mean, it's the season, right? After a very strong losers run, we gotta know what's the best one, or what are some of the best ones?
Gotta know.
Favorite ones.
What are you thinking?
And why? Maybe even provide a little reasoning. Go a little crazy. Go a little nuts with it.
Yeah, but I will say a lot of people ask like, how does this compare to like Pound and shit? And I'm like, dog, like they played on Corneria. I don't even think compare these runs anymore. I just view them as like pre-modern era and then modern era runs. It's just such a different game. But that's just me.
That's an interesting way to look at it too. I think that's fair. I think rather than using these discussions to discredit anything, I think the more we can like highlight how great all this stuff
exactly. I actually feel that way.
Is a really cool thing. So hopefully we can do that with this and not dunk on anyone else or any other time. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
I do actually want that to be respectful. It's like say what you liked about the runs, not this run sucked and it should be under this run because it's just not.
Right.
Like all the runs that are in discussion for this are fucking amazing for their own reasons. Sorry, am I allowed to curse?
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
I think
I'm still tired. I'm sorry.
It's all good. I mean, I think YouTube will sometimes demonetize if it's like the first 5 minutes, but you know what? We're not even close to that, so we're good.
All right, badass.
I heard they loosened those guidelines anyway.
Oh, did
they relax that?
Yeah, I think it's only for like certain words now, or maybe not even that. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Either way, saved. Well, hopefully we're gonna have some good discussion. We're gonna have some good developments. We're gonna have some good things to talk about in the upcoming week, including losers runs. But you know what? For now, we're gonna go ahead and get out of here. We're gonna let Cody get some rest, and maybe everyone gets some rest because a lot of stuff's happened. But thank you so much for joining us today, Cody. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
And thank you, Toph, for holding it down as always, man.
Hey, appreciate that. Appreciate you being here. And yeah, of course, as a reminder to our audio listeners and YouTube viewers, every Tuesday, 3 p.m., 6 p.m. Pacific and Eastern, respectively. And we do have that phone number that you can call in if you can't make those time slots. If you need to ask us some hard-hitting questions, or if you just want to make funny noises into your microphone, again, that number is going to be 823-546-4282. What is it again? There it is. 213-347-5242. I knew at the end, you see, you heard that. At the end, I got like 3 numbers in a row. I think I got the 242.
He clutches those.
I'm starting to recognize the overall pattern of the number. Eventually, I'm going to have it memorized, and I'll just be able to say it. Okay, well, anyway, that's it for this week. We'll be back next week with another exciting guest. Probably less exciting.
They will.
Yeah,
I will.
He won't be, or we'll just get Cody again. You know, whatever. We'll see. But thanks for coming. Thanks for coming by. Thanks for coming by our humble little part of the internet. And with that said, this has been Radio Melee signing out.
Peace.
Easy.